This is JR Bell, and this particular video is going over is a topic that has been discussed around over the past few weeks. When it comes to the part about the stimulus bill, was it HR 748, and with HR 748, there's, of course, the whole thing with the stimulus for individuals, but I am going over the topic of the stimulus for businesses, and that is going to be a factor here later on down the line. But the topic title that I have here is Stimulus 2020. Are Black businesses being left in the dust again? And that is the question that is being posed here is, will Black businesses be left in the dust when you have these stimulus boosts or these financial boosts to small businesses or mid-sized businesses or whatever? Are they going to be able to take advantage of either getting a loan or getting a grant that would be able to help out their business? Now, of course, we've gone through quote unquote lockdowns all across the country, and that has definitely affected many businesses all across the country, and that does include Black businesses. Now, with that being said, you have to see if these Black businesses will be able to take advantage of the loans that are being offered for small businesses or mid-sized large businesses, number one. And then, number two, they're also able to take advantage of money that's being put in for grants. Now, the thing with Black businesses is that, there have been, multiple instances where Black businesses have been, quote unquote, behind the eight ball when it comes to acquiring loans. And if they do acquire loans, the amount of difficulty that they have in paying it back. So first I wanted to kind of go into the one of the things here with that stimulus bill, HR 48, that I wanted to have as far as like part of this discussion here. So I'm going to see if I could pull up something where it goes through a portion of that bill, and this is part of that HR 748 that was passed, and I focus on this portion here where it talks about assistance for mid-sized businesses. Now, with that, it shows that they will go into a program or start up a program that provides financing to banks and other lenders that make direct loans to eligible businesses, including to the extent practicable nonprofit organizations with between 500 and 10,000 employees, with such direct loans being subject to an annualized interest rate that is not higher than 2% per annum for the first 6 months after any such direct loan is made, or for such longer period as the secretary may determine in his discretion. No principal or interest shall be due or payable. So when it comes to the thing there for mid-sized businesses, when it comes to that, first of all, you're able to get a loan if granted at a 2% interest rate. So, for a quick example, if you get a loan for $1,000, you have to pay back $1,020, right? So that's kind of good. And also it gives in a time period of 6 months for any of those mid-sized businesses in that particular case to not have to pay back any principal or interest for that loan. So it gives them a little bit of a break for them to kind of build their business up and build, whatever revenue that they can generate from that period that they are able to get the loan to the point where the first payment is due. So 6 months for them to, like I said, build revenue, expand their business, and do what is needed in order to, either keep their business afloat or be able to expand their business. Now, wanted to, kind of like break that down in reference to black businesses, and having that thing for 2% interest rate is interesting to say the least, because before this came out, there was a statistic that for all businesses that black-owned businesses had to pay an interest rate of around 7.8% on average on the loan, compared to 6.4% for non-black businesses. Now, and that is a definite hindrance for those black businesses, because there has been, multiple issues when it comes to these black-owned businesses trying to get loans and also be able to get the amount that they request. Okay. Now, one of the stats there when it comes to that is that among businesses with gross receipts under $500,000, loan denial rates for black firms and minority firms were about 3 times higher at 42%, compared to those of non-minority owned firms, non-black owned firms at 16%. For high sales firms or businesses, those that get receipts over $500,000, the rate of loan denial was almost twice as high for minority firms as for non-minority firms. Now, I'm going to see here if I can get this particular stat up on the screens so that you'll be able to see that these other stats. Now, here's another one that's above, what I was stating. The average loan amount for all high sales minority firms was $149,000. The non-minority average was more than twice this amount at $310,000. Conditioning on the percentage of firms receiving those loans, average loan received by high sales minority firms was $363,000 compared to $592,000 for non-minority firms, which kind of like follows up with what I was saying before, which is below. Now, you also have something here where it says a report by the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland found that even though black-owned businesses apply for funding at a higher rate than white-owned businesses, which I'll go into a little bit later, their approval rates are 19% lower. That report also found that only 40% of minority-owned businesses were approved for the full amount they requested, compared to 68% of white-owned businesses. Okay. Black, Latin, and Asian-owned businesses were also significantly more likely not to apply for financing at all because they were discouraged by their prospects. Basically meaning that they kind of were disappointed that, they know about the stories of the number one, the approval rate being low, and number two, not being able to get the full amount that they request. So with that being known, they, kind of think twice before they even start to apply for a loan. Okay. Now, the Cleveland Federal Reserve also found that Black and Latin-owned businesses were more likely to apply to online lenders, and were also more likely to apply for higher cost products than white-owned firms. Ooh, yeah, that right there is a real, should be a real concern because number one, you don't necessarily have um, that much control or leeway when it comes to applying for business loans that are not through a bank. And that's number one. And then number two, the interest rates might not be, that low. You might have to deal with a loan that has a fairly high interest rate that could be, 10 to 12%. Now, given that, one, you don't get as much. You're most likely not to get as much as you're requested because it's more than half the time that you request that you do get the amount that you are trying to get. And then number two, before this whole thing with the stimulus, your interest rate was higher than your, non-Black counterparts. Now, I've, basically talked about in a previous video that net worth or overall net worth has been a concern for, Black people, particularly when it comes to after they graduate from college, because a lot of them do enter into college and go into the student loans, right? So I'm going to see here if I could pull up another screen here real fast and think about that. These stats are, kind of bothersome because this overall article says the thing is titled, African American wealth could fall to zero by 2053, and that's 33 years from now, right? But going down to this particular paragraph, it says that student loan debt has delayed the wealth building dream of many educated African Americans. National Center for Education Statistics noted that an estimated 77.7% of Black students borrow federal student loans to pay for higher education, as opposed to 57.5% of white students. Studies continuously show that Black students are more likely to go in debt in order to live the dream of walking across the stage as a college graduate. Okay. Now, it says that, education has helped many African Americans improve their social and economic status and gain access to many of the luxuries of life. Studies show that education has proven to increase earnings potential. Yes, we do know that. But the income gained from pursuing higher education is undercut when you have to take out large sums of student loan money without a plan to pay it back. The interest adds up and you'll end up paying more than you borrowed if you don't understand the student loan repayment process. Now, it also focuses on the things here for Black women or African American women. It says many reports have shed light on the additional link between education and net worth. While Black women are being applauded for being the most educated demographic in the United States, there's a harsh reality that undermines this acknowledgement. Their net worth still remains low. Okay, and it goes through four stats that do focus on Black women. And here it goes. Single Black women with a bachelor's degree ages 20 to 39 have a median net worth of negative $11,000 to zero, while the white woman has a net worth range of $3,400 to $7,500. Run that again. Single Black woman with a bachelor's degree between the ages of 20 and 39 have a median net worth of negative $11,000 to a net worth of zero. in comparison to a single white woman that has a net worth range of $3,400 to $7,500. A married black woman with a bachelor's degree, ages 30 to 39, have a median net worth of negative $20,500 to $7,700, while white women with the same stat within the same age bracket have a net worth range of $18,700 to $97,000. Let me run that again, or at least let me focus on this thing. The low point for a married black woman is negative $20,500 in comparison to the lowest point for married white women at $18,700. That's one thing. But here's the peak. Married black women with a bachelor's degree, age 20 to 39, median net worth of $7,700 in comparison to a married white woman within that same age bracket of $97,000. Like $90,000, man. That's crazy. Like, that's crazy right there. It's crazy. A single black woman with a bachelor's degree, age over 60, have a median net worth of $11,000, while white women within that same statistic have a net worth of $384,400. Married black women with a bachelor's degree over 60 have a median net worth of $424,000, while white women within that same statistic have a net worth of $778,000. Now, going back to the thing with single black women with a bachelor's degree over 60, a net worth of $11,000 in comparison to $384,400. Now, that is, a real grim statistic there when it comes to overall net worth when it comes to black women in specifics, because number one, like I said, the whole thing about student loans, a high percentage of all black students going into college take out some type of student loan. It said there 77.7%. That's number one. Number two, the overall pay scale for black women is among the lowest, or probably the lowest overall. So that hinders them from getting items that would build their credit or build their wealth, such as a house, or being able to invest to kind of like increase their overall net worth. And like I said, another factor when it comes to overall net worth is credit. And with the whole thing with student loans, I've explained this in a previous video that when you take out student loans and you're graduating at 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, or whatever, that overall burden takes out a significant chunk of your credit score. So if you can't, really get a credit score that is, 700 or above, you won't necessarily be qualified for, getting a house at a good, that has a good value. And when it comes to the things here for credit scores, to go into that a little bit further, in 2017, an Urban Institute study found that predominantly non-white areas in 50 out of 60 cities studied had median credit scores that were 660 or lower, and most of the cities had median credit scores of that were at 600 or lower.
In comparison, predominantly white areas in only 4 of the 60 cities studied had median credit scores that were below 660. Now, the average minority small business owner has a credit score of about 707, which is 15 points lower than the average small business owner in the US. Now, with that being said, when it comes to small businesses and for those black businesses that are dealing with the Small Business Administration, we talk about this thing about getting loans from the federal government or from the Small Business Administration. Now, there are certain factors that are brought in when it comes to trying to get a loan from the Small Business Administration, and one of the criterias is that the business or the person heading over the business has to have a minimum credit score of 700. Now, bringing up what I was saying before about African Americans, blacks that go through college and have those student loans, most likely they won't have that credit score of 700 for a good amount of time after they graduate from college. It wouldn't be able to get to around that level until they pay off those student loans. So if you're someone that's coming out of college and you graduate from college and you had student loans like that 77.7% that was shown earlier, then it may take a while for you to get that credit score up to 700 points. So that is something that shows as a hindrance for many of black people that want to either get into business, start business, or do have a business, that they have to be able to build up to a level of credit to where they can acquire those business loans that we're talking about here in this particular video.
Going back into what I was saying here in the first part, when it comes to overall net worth, I did go through the statistic for African American or Black women as far as like their median net worth and the range that it goes to in comparison to white women within those same brackets, and that kind of was a staggering statistic. Like I said, that came from article on Black Enterprise called "African American Wealth May Fall to Zero by 2053" by Charlene Reinhardt. So I'll be able to post that link onto the Facebook page, but also this thing here should be able to. Yeah, once I'm done with this, I'll be able to share that link for that particular article. And why that is kind of it's like a staggering statistic. Okay. There has been more statistics in reference to the overall net worth of African Americans in comparison to whites. There's an article in Forbes that kind of like shows this, so hopefully I will be able to share that here. So let me see if I can do that. It shows like that at the median, non-retired African Americans had $13,460 in wealth in 2016, or only 9.5% of the median wealth of $142,180 that whites had at the time. and it goes, through, like I said, that particular stat there. And it kind of like says that in 2007, just before the recession started, the median African American wealth was 13.7% of the median white wealth, $25,841 compared to $188,756. Well, that's in comparison to 2016. So that is kind of like what the stats are in reference to that. So I'm going to go through a little bit more here when it comes to the thing for Black businesses. Like I was saying, data recorded in 2016 found out that white business owners start their businesses with an average of $106,720 in working capital compared to African American owned businesses, which are started with an average of just $35,205. Now, with that startup, that really is an issue when it comes to overall operating costs. Trying to get materials that you would need for your particular business. And like I was saying in the previous video, when you have those difficulties trying to get loans for your business, number one, at that time having it at a higher interest rate, and then also, the difficulties of trying to get revenue for your business, as the patrons that you were trying to seek don't necessarily come to your business or patronize you. So with all those factors that are there, that is why you see a lot of the Black businesses pretty much go under within 3 to 5 years. And so with this whole thing, like I was saying in the previous video, with the stimulus bill, where it shows that loans that are granted, at least for mid-level or mid-sized businesses, have an interest rate of just 2%, you still have the obstacle of, trying to get the loan, number one, being approved for the loan, and then also being approved for the amount that you request. Because the amount that you request is like 40% of the time that Black businesses are able to get that amount, in comparison to like what was it, a 52% for white businesses. So with that being said, you're trying to get a loan, you're trying to get it for a certain amount. Either you're denied altogether because of your overall either your amount of revenue that you initially get in, your credit score, or your overall net worth. And even if you do basically get a loan, you have to pay, at the time you had to pay a higher interest rate than your white counterparts, and you don't get the full amount. So you're pretty much behind the 8 ball, I would say 2 or 3-fold when it comes to these other businesses, right? So in this particular day and age, where you want to see if you could have Black-owned businesses, and that kind of, increases your net worth or your overall value, that is something that you would have to kind of think about when it comes to trying to, gain overall net worth. Is that, number one, if you want to go ahead and take out a loan for your business, are you going to be able to pay it back? And are you going to be able to pay it back in time, so that the interest rate doesn't, end up killing you in the long run? So there's basically that that you have to do, that you have to think about. This is one thing that I wanted to basically share as far as the particular presentation. like I was saying at the beginning in reference to black businesses, and how this is pretty much a key time for black businesses because number one, you have this whole thing with stimulus bill, like I said, with that HR 748, where they have, basically given money towards the Small Business Administration in order to distribute loans at a lower percentage or lower percentage interest rate than it used to be before. And like I was saying in the previous videos, that with black businesses, once they do get loans or are approved for loans, they pay it back with an average of an interest rate of 7.8%. Now, if it is still around 2% interest rate for small businesses and black businesses when it comes to these loans that are being granted out now, then they would have a little bit of a better opportunity to pay those back without having to have that large financial burden later on down the road. But it still, kind of like matters if they are able to be granted those loans in the first place. And like I was saying in the previous videos, those stats that were out there show that number one, the black businesses usually don't get granted for those loans in comparison to whites, and then also that the loan amount that they get is usually less than what they request. So now we have to be on the lookout to see if you're a black business, if you want to go ahead and request those loans, if you're going to be able to, number one, be qualified, and then number two, after you're particularly qualified, are you going to be granted that loan? And then number three, once you do get a loan, will it be the amount that you request, or will it be less than what you requested for that loan? Now, one thing that I kind of study when it comes to businesses overall is how the power of the dollar being circulated within a quote unquote community, how that is a major factor in building communities and building individuals, increasing the overall net worth of certain groups of individuals, and how that helps us out in general. Okay, I did talk about some stats when it comes to overall net worth of black people. So that is a kind of a high concern there, because I did go through previous statistic in reference to overall wealth, and then there's like another statistic that goes into the past through State of Working America, where it says in 2010 that the median wealth or net worth for black families was $4,900 in 2010, compared to the median wealth for whites at $97,000. Okay, $97,000. Now, one person that has talked about this for years is someone that I kind of like regard, put in high regard, and that's Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson has, been in politics, and he has been an activist for black people for many years. He does have books such as Black Labor, White Wealth, Powernomics, among others. And years ago, he did have a presentation over in Baltimore, and he kind of goes over a couple of statistics that show how the overall net worth of a group of people is affected by the amount of businesses that they open up and that they have and that they're able to flourish with. So one thing that wanted to go over in this particular video is the spending power of black people and how it could positively affect black businesses. So I wanted to see if I could queue up this particular portion in this video, and once I'm able to do that, then I would kind of show where this is a major factor when it comes to Black businesses. So I'm going to see if I could pull this thing up here real quick and go through this clip, and then you can listen to Dr. Claude Anderson and what he says in reference to the power of the dollar, and how like Black people as consumers, how spending that dollar affects us as a people and how it affects Black businesses. So let me see if I could cue this up here from Dr. Claude Anderson. Let's go.
Now you hear people talking about, Dr. As we should go into business because we got a $700 billion annual disposable income. You're right. They said we're the ninth richest nation on earth. You're right. Black people in America's annual disposable income is higher than Sweden, Pakistan, India, North Korea, South Korea, Vietnam, and all the African countries put together. But we're the poorest people in the country because we do not practice group economics. Everybody on earth practices group economics but us. Again, Powernomics talks about all this stuff. So did Black labor, white wealth. Everybody practices group economics but us. Now, what is group economics? Group economics means you must learn how to pool your resources in a vertical way and buy from your own people up and down a chain. Just that simple. It says nothing, you don't have to love all Black folk, you don't have to be kissing on them and hugging on them, but you should support them and buy from them. We won't do it. Now, in group economics, the rule is this. Your money is supposed to bounce 8 to 12 times before it leaves your hands. It's supposed to bounce 8 to 12 times before it leaves your hands or leaves your race. That means that if you got $1 in your pocket right now, that dollar should go to another Black person and another Black person, 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 till it passes through 8 to 12 times before it leaves and go to a non-Black hand. In America, Hispanic money bounces 6 to 7 times. Hispanics in America right now that you're all competing with, they spend their money, their own people, 6 to 7 times before it leaves a Hispanic hand. White money bounces 8 to 12 times. Arab and Asian money bounces 13 to 14 times. Jewish money bounces 18 times. Black money doesn't bounce once. As soon as a Black person gets paid, he'll run over you trying to get to a non-Black business to spend it. As soon as it, right now, if you're out the street, every Black dollar right now in Baltimore is going into a non-Black hand right now. They're committing suicide. Every time you fail to spend your money with your own people, not only have you failed to practice group economics, but you flush $11 down the toilet.
Now, that's Dr. Claude Anderson talking about the statistics of what happens when a person spends $1 that they have or that they've quote unquote earned, how that money is spent. And he brought up that the Black community or African American community or whatever it is one of the largest groups of consumers that spend a lot of money. Like I said, about $7 billion, and all of that money goes to other groups of people, not necessarily to Black businesses. Now within that particular video, that's a little bit earlier, he shows statistics of how many out of 100 people start a business or have a business in different groups of people, whether it's Asians, Hispanics, whites, or Blacks. And that, of course, he shows in that particular video that the ratio of Blacks that go into business is much lower than anyone in any of the other groups. And he shows that the overall net worth of Asians in America are at the top. Then below that is whites. Then below that is Hispanics, and then below that is blacks. And that's the same, pretty much the same group that has the amount of businesses or the amount of people that go into business within America. So we have to change up the overall structure of not working for someone else, but starting a business first and then having our people work in that business so that we'll be able to circulate the dollar more within our group than taking that dollar out. He says in that particular video that every $1 spent outside of the group is $11 gone from that particular group or community. So in that video, he says for every $1 that's spent, even if it's like $1 worth of gas, that's $11 that's leaving the community or leaving the black community. That particular thing has to change in order for blacks as a group to be able to have more money, to be able to have more net worth, and be able to have more financial or buying power in this particular country. So while you do have this whole thing about people talking about the stimulus and getting what is it, the $1,200 as an individual and whatnot, and then the whole thing with the businesses, it is kind of paramount to see that some of that money gets spent within a black business. Now, I do dedicate 1 month for promoting a black business. Usually it's once a day, but last year I did basically 6 to 7 businesses within that 1 week and promoted it from one city to another city to another city. Like, for example, a group from Chicago, a group from Detroit, a group from Los Angeles, a group from Dallas, a group from St. Louis. Now, yesterday I pretty much made one post that said to promote a black business within the area. So here, not only will I kind of like post links in reference to those statistics that I was talking about in a series of videos that I did post today, but also I'm going to see if I could go ahead and promote a black business once a week on Facebook. Not just on Instagram, but on Facebook. See if I could promote at least one black business. That's number one. Number two, I'll see if I could post links to where you have black business directories all around the country, like from Detroit, DC, Tampa, Atlanta, Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi. So I'll post those and then see if I could, get more off of that. Because like Dr. Claude Anderson said, you have to have a chain of businesses that goes up the ladder in order to use that dollar that goes from one spot to another spot to another spot to another spot before it even leaves that particular group. And the problem is right now is that a lot of us spend that money outside of our particular group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, number one, post links that I have used in reference to the sources for the information that has been presented tonight. Number two, I'll go ahead and post those links for the directories. Number three, like I said, once a week, I'll say if I promote a black business on Facebook. And number four, I probably will be expounding on this particular topic when it comes to that whole chain that Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about, because you won't be able to, I would say, implement that plan or strategy or the thing that Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about, unless if you have a certain level or a certain group of businesses that you could use in order to say, hey, I could go to this clothing store, I could go to this gas station, I could go to this grocery store, I could go to, let me say, an entertainment agency or entertainment place. I could go to this particular restaurant, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the very least, and keep that rotation going until I go somewhere else to spend that money. So that's one of the things I would say that I'll try to work on over the next series of weeks, and say that, okay, go to this business, go to that business, go to this business, go to that business before, going anywhere else, unless if you absolutely have to. So that's going to be what I'm going to try to do here over the next series of weeks. I will continue to discuss this particular topic at a later time. I thank all of y'all for joining me here live. If you do watch this later, you'll be able to catch the series when it happens. Either that, or I'm going to see if I could capture this audio and video, put it together, and then post it either once again here on Facebook, or I'll post it on YouTube so that you'll be able to watch it. And that's all I got for tonight. Hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I'll talk to you later.